Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, is now at the center of a high-profile legal battle after his sister, Ann Altman, filed a shocking lawsuit accusing him of sexually abusing her for nearly a decade. Altman denies the claims, but the case is raising serious questions about the potential damage to both his personal reputation and the future of OpenAI. We're going to dive into these shocking allegations right now. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. By the way, I have to thank Upside for sponsoring today's Law&Crime YouTube takeover. They helped make this episode possible. Now, Upside is awesome. It is a free app that gives you cash back on gas, groceries, restaurants. It is super easy to use. You just claim an offer in the app. You pay as usual using your credit card. You get paid. This is actually real cash back that goes into your bank account. You can use Upside at places like Shell, Exxon, 7-Eleven, Chipotle. Look here, I used it at this gas station. I got cash back. So to find out how much you can earn, you click the link in the description to download Upside, or you scan the QR code on screen, but make sure to use our promo code LCTakeover because you'll get an extra 25 cents back on every gallon on your first tank of gas. A lawsuit filed in Missouri federal court has set off a firestorm of controversy, accusing Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, of sexually abusing his sister, Ann Altman, for almost a decade. Yeah, I know, this is next level. So this suit, which was filed in the United States District Court for the Eastern District of Missouri, that is where these alleged events occurred, this suit details incredibly disturbing allegations of sexual assault and battery that allegedly occurred between 1997 and 2006. This allegedly started when Ann says she was just 3 years old and Sam was 12. Now, the legal battle has already drawn sharp reactions from both sides of the Altman family. It is raising questions about one of Silicon Valley's biggest tech moguls. Now, before we get into this, if you're not familiar with who Sam Altman is, let me kind of lay this out for you. He is considered a tech visionary. He is known for his belief that AI, artificial intelligence, will be able to do anything that humans can do and more. At 39 years old, Altman is the co-founder and CEO of OpenAI, the company behind some of the biggest breakthroughs in AI. OpenAI launched back in 2015 with Altman serving as co-chair alongside none other than Elon Musk. Now backed by Microsoft, OpenAI is valued at a massive $157 billion, making Altman one of the most influential figures in the tech world today. And in contrast, we talk about his sister, the plaintiff in this case, Ann Altman. She has led a more private life, although I will tell you, her allegations against her brother have occasionally surfaced on social media, especially on platforms like X, which we're going to get into in a little bit. But this lawsuit marks the first formal legal action she has taken against him. She is making serious allegations, including rape, molestation, sexual assault, sodomy, battery. So I want to break it down, start from the beginning, because there is a lot to unpack here. So Ann claims that this abuse began all the way back in 1997 when she was just 3 years old. According to her official complaint, which was obtained by Law&Crime, Ann says that beginning around that time, Sam Altman would force her to perform sexual acts on him, including, and I'm sorry, I'm very sorry for the graphic nature of this, forcing her to touch his genitals. And even more shocking, she says, is that this was occurring frequently. According to her filing, from approximately 1997 to 1999, when plaintiff Ann Altman was between the ages of 3 to 5 years old, the foregoing conduct occurred several times per week. She also says in her filing that Altman did not just force her to do things to him, but that he also forced himself onto her and sexually assaulted her in various ways. We're not going to get into how graphic this is, but of course the complaint is publicly available, so you can read it for yourself. But what's even worse, according to Ann, is that Altman even tried to manipulate her. According to her filing, Sam Altman groomed and manipulated plaintiff Ann Altman into believing the aforementioned sexual acts were her idea, despite the fact she was under the age of 5 years old when the sexual abuse began and defendant was nearly a teenager. Now that was important, I imagine, to maybe suggest why she hadn't spoken out before, when she was younger, perhaps to her family. We'll explore that in a minute. But beginning approximately in 1999 or 2000, this would be when Ann was 5 or 6 years old and Altman would have been 14 or 15 years old. This is when Anne claims that Sam Altman began forcing her to engage in sexual intercourse with him, and this allegedly went on for several years. According to her filing, the foregoing level of childhood sexual abuse continued for a period of approximately 8 or 9 years until plaintiff was 11 or 12 years old, wherein defendant Sam Altman regularly continued to commit numerous acts of rape, sexual assault, sexual abuse, molestation, sodomy, and battery upon plaintiff Anne Altman. And this would continue, according to Anne, even when Altman became an adult and Anne was still a minor. Now, according to this filing, there is a childhood sexual abuse statute in effect in the state of Missouri that governs abuse when the victim is under the age of 18. And that statute reads, any action to recover damages from injury or illnesses caused by childhood sexual abuse in an action brought pursuant to this section shall be commenced within 10 years of the plaintiff attaining the age of 21 or within 3 years of the date the plaintiff discovers or reasonably should have discovered that the injury or illness was caused by childhood sexual abuse, whichever later occurs. So this is about bringing a lawsuit, a civil action. And as you can see, it provides this kind of window because we know these cases can be very complex in terms of when someone can actually understand the damage of what happened to them. Maybe when they reach an age, they can actually appreciate what happened to them, come forward with what happened to them. We know that there's a lot of complications in these kinds of cases or alleged cases. But let me just break that down a little bit further, because basically what Missouri law is providing is a window for survivors of childhood sexual abuse to file lawsuits up to 10 years after their 21st birthday. And this appears to be why Anne is bringing the lawsuit forward now, as the lawsuit claims she was 30 at the time of this filing. She apparently just turned 31. So I want to get into what she is suing Sam Altman for. So the first count in the lawsuit is for sexual assault, which Anne says left a lasting and horrific impact on her both physically and emotionally. According to her filing, as a direct and proximate result of the foregoing acts of sexual assault upon plaintiff Anne Altman by defendant Sam Altman. By the way, when we talk about direct and proximate result, it's basically a causation thing. We're saying, but for this happening, these results wouldn't have happened. Plaintiff has suffered great bodily injury, including but not limited to physical injuries associated with the harms committed. She has also experienced PTSD, severe emotional distress, mental anguish, and depression, which is expected to continue into the future. She has experienced embarrassment and humiliation. And by the way, talking about something I mentioned before, there could be, what we see in this case, if it actually goes to trial, there could be medical expert testimony to say, she was diagnosed with these different conditions, and there was analysis done that it all led back to this childhood trauma, this childhood assault or alleged assault. That's why it becomes important and giving that window to actually sue for this. And on top of that, she says she has incurred numerous medical bills as a result of medical and mental health treatments, that her future employment has suffered, along with a loss of enjoyment for life. And the second count that she's suing him for is sexual battery. According to her filing, as a direct and proximate result of the aforementioned acts, defendant Sam Altman committed an unlawful and outrageous touching upon the person of plaintiff Anne Altman without any lawful justification or consent, thereby committing a battery upon her. And as a result of this alleged abuse, Anne is suing Altman for at least $75,000 in damages and legal fees. I'm going to explain that a little bit more later, but these are obviously incredibly disturbing allegations. I mean, it's one thing to say that you were sexually assaulted. It's another thing to say you were sexually assaulted by a family member, a brother. And it does become a question of how Anne will try to prove this other than her testimony alone. I mentioned perhaps medical examiners will testify about this, about conversations she had with them. And given the time period, the circumstances of these allegations, are there texts, are there emails, are there videos, are there screenshots corroborating witnesses? We shall see. But putting all that to the side, for those of you who might be saying, well, why is this only coming out now? I mean, with OpenAI valued at so much, is this just a way to get a payday? Well, keep that in mind for a minute because we'll talk about the family's response. But here's the thing. This is not the first time Anne Altman has alleged this. This lawsuit marks the latest chapter in a series of allegations that Anne Altman has made publicly over the last few years, especially on the platform X. So since 2021, Anne has shared similar claims, including a post from November of that year in which she named two of her brothers as part of her accusations. That post reads, "I experienced sexual, physical, emotional, verbal, financial, and technological abuse from my biological siblings, mostly Sam Altman, and some from Jack Altman." Now, just to be clear, she has not filed any legal action against her brother Jack, and he's not named in her filing against Sam. But going forward, in a post from 2023, she wrote, "I'm not 4 years old with a 13-year-old brother climbing onto my bed non-consensually anymore. You're welcome for helping you figure out your sexuality. I've finally accepted that you've always been and always will be more scared of me than I am of you." February 2020, she shared this post, seemingly alluding to her troubled past, where she wrote, "I have PTSD. Of course, I have a ridiculous number of pictures and screenshots to help me avoid gaslighting." Now, there has been a response. In a statement issued Tuesday, Altman and his family, including his mother and two younger brothers, they flatly denied these allegations. In part of the statement, the family claims Anne suffers from mental health issues, saying, "Our family loves Annie and is very concerned about her well-being. Caring for a family member who faces mental health challenges is very difficult. We know many families facing similar struggles understand this well." And the statement goes on to say that the family has offered their support to Anne in numerous ways. Quote, "Over the years, we've tried in many ways to support Annie and to help her find stability, following professional advice on how to be supportive without enabling harmful behaviors. To give a sense of our efforts, we have given her monthly financial support, directly paid her bills, covered her rent, helped her find employment opportunities, attempted to get her medical help, and have offered to buy her a house through a trust so that she would have a secure place to live, but not be able to sell it immediately." By the way, that's really interesting, because if that's true and they're financing her life, how can she afford a lawyer? And I don't think they're going to be footing the bill for this. So just a little side note there. And by the way, I think they're putting out this statement both for a legal point of view, but also from a PR point of view. As I said, what could be the potential damage of a lawsuit like this? Well, reversing the narrative immediately and trying to say, take a step back. This is somebody who's quite troubled. We shouldn't really take these allegations as true. That might be saying something to the general public, particularly since he's the head of OpenAI. Putting that to the side, the Altman family also argues that this lawsuit is just another attempt by Anne to extract more money from them. And the statement continues, "Annie had made deeply hurtful and entirely untrue claims about our family, and especially Sam. We've chosen not to respond publicly out of respect for her privacy and our own. However, she has now taken legal action against Sam, and we feel we have no choice but to address this." Now, we've mentioned that she's seeking at least $75,000 in damages. That's not an arbitrary number in the law. That is actually the minimum amount you need to be suing for in order to get into federal court. But more importantly, if we take a closer look at the language in the lawsuit, it becomes clear that this figure really is just the starting point, because it reads, "Plaintiff Anne Altman requests that judgment be entered on her behalf against defendant Sam Altman for actual damages in a sum in excess of $75,000. Now, in legal terms, this means that Anne is not simply asking for $75,000, but for damages that could exceed well beyond that amount. And again, the $75,000 is just a minimum. And Anne's attorney, Ryan Mahoney, has indicated that if this case goes to trial, the damages could be much higher, particularly if you're talking about punitive damages. Those are a way to punish a defendant for really bad actions. And you also have to wonder if it's going to be considered by a jury Sam Altman's substantial wealth as CEO of OpenAI. Now, back to the family's statement. Their response also suggests that these sexual abuse allegations are far from the only accusations that Anne has leveled against them. The family claims she has also accused them of improperly withholding their deceased father's 401k funds, hacking her Wi-Fi, and even shadow banning her on various websites, including ChatGPT and Twitter, or X. Now, for context, shadow banning refers to subtly limiting a user's content visibility without their knowledge, typically by altering how their posts appear in an algorithm, making it hard for others to see or engage with them. But the family ends the statement refuting her claims in their entirety. All of these claims are utterly untrue. This situation causes immense pain to our entire family. It is especially gut-wrenching when she refuses conventional treatment and lashes out at family members who are genuinely trying to help. We ask for understanding and compassion from everyone as we continue to support Annie in the best way we can. We sincerely hope she finds the stability and peace she's been searching for. So it becomes unclear how aggressive legally they will be in their defense, either disputing the claims here, trying to get this case dismissed. It's unclear if they're going to be filing a countersuit or counterclaims like defamation, but based on that statement, seems unlikely. Seems like they're just going to try to get this case thrown out or have her voluntarily dismiss it. But Anne's lawyer, here's the thing, again, Ryan Mahoney, issued a response to the family statement, rejecting their explanation, saying it is not uncommon for parents and other family members to deny sexual abuse perpetrated by a sibling. In this case, they are focusing on the wrong sibling. There is no evidence that her own mental health has contributed to her allegations. So it seems that the allegation here is that the family is either covering all this up or they are in complete denial, but it doesn't appear that Anne or her attorney are backing away from this. And by the way, from the complaint, it might seem bare bones, like just blanket allegations at this point, but you actually don't need to show more at this point in the litigation. The purpose of a lawsuit and discovery, where evidence is being turned over, is to develop those claims more fully. And by the way, in terms of a lawyer filing a claim like this, filing a lawsuit like this, there has to be a level of due diligence. He had to make sure that these claims are at least supported by factual assertions. It's against ethical and civil procedure rules for an attorney to file frivolous lawsuits. So her attorney is confident that there is something here, or at least seems to be, and by the rules would have had to do some level of due diligence to make sure this is not just a product of alleged mental health issues, but there really is something here. Now, the one lingering question with this lawsuit is, what effect is it going to have on OpenAI? It certainly has the potential to damage its reputation. According to Forbes magazine, Sam Altman's net worth is around $1.1 billion. And we mentioned OpenAI was recently valued at $157 billion, though according to the magazine reporting, Altman doesn't hold any equity in the company. He's currently in the process of transitioning the company to a for-profit organization. Bloomberg reports he's in line to receive a 7% stake in the company once that happens. So again, one of the challenges that could be made is the timing of this lawsuit, given what's happening with the company. But I think, again, that is why that statement was put forward. That is why you might see a very quick and swift, aggressive legal strategy to try to get this case dismissed so it doesn't hurt him from a PR perspective or hurt his company from a PR perspective or a financial perspective. But the impact of this case, particularly if it goes forward on Sam Altman's career, that remains to be seen. But given the high stakes, both legally and personally, the outcome could carry significant repercussions for all involved. But we'll continue to keep an eye out for what happens in this case. That's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. I'll speak to you next time.